What's up guys and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Channel Zero Season 3 Butcher's Block Episode 5 titled Red Door. Now I haven't got a lot of time to talk about this episode, but let me tell you, I fucking love this episode. This is probably my favourite one of the season so far. One of the things that was missing in the last episode was the horror imagery, like all the gore and the blood and stuff, and I thought this episode brought that back in a great fashion. One of the very first scenes of this episode is Alice. I think it's Alice, and she's laid down on this sort of like ritual table. It's like a pool of blood behind her head, it looks like, and her face is covered in blood, and it's just a close-up of her face, and it's like perfectly symmetrical. You can see like between the eyes. It's just such a great like shot. You didn't know what was going on at that point, and then a few seconds later, Joseph is pulling a centipede out of her mouth, which was just gross. It reminded me of the Exorcist TV show, which also had some weird centipede scenes. But yeah, loved the way they started this episode. And then we get hit with probably the coolest title sequence of the whole season as well. We just see Alice lay in bed in the dark, and Smart Mouth is just laying next to her in the bed. You can just see his head in the shadows, and it looks so creepy. And the titles came up, and I just love the way they opened this episode. We see Alice or Zoe, I can't remember which one it was, but she's walking on the corridors, and we just see Smart Mouth on the floor, like rapping on the wall, making this noise like a squirrel trying to crack a nut, and he just looks at Alice and smiles at her, and it was so damn creepy. I love Smart Mouth. He's getting a lot more screen time in this episode. And she overhears Joseph and the other family members talking about how they need to sacrifice the girl, which I assumed was going to be Izzy. So the girl's missing apparently, so it does hold up to my theory that they need the sacrifices for them to continue like living, which had something to do with them like sort of vibing in and out between worlds when the skin was going all like skeletal and stuff. So after the ending of the last episode where Luke had his throat slashed and he's left to die, his dad takes the midgets and the Robert's brother to the grave site to prove to them that he has killed Luke, and he's going to make it up to them, and when they get there the body's gone. And I love the way the two children were just like skipping around in this field where there's a dead body and they know there's someone who's been brutally murdered, and they're just having fun in a field. I love the way they did that. And the brother also said that the two kids were like sniffer dogs. Basically they were going to track down the body by their sense of smell, which was just bizarre but funny. So where's the body? We find out that Louise is actually taking him back to her house, and she's been stitching him up. I guess her taxidermy skills came in handy there. I'm glad that they kept Luke from talking, because a lot of shows they would have just completely forgotten about like the logistics of it, and they would have had him healed up and be fine. But this, they actually made him so he couldn't talk, obviously because he had his throat cut. So I like the way they kept it a bit more grounded to realism in that aspect. Now one of the big themes in this episode is the role reversal of the characters of Zoe and Alice. Originally Zoe's the one who wanted to go with the family, and Alice was trying to stop her at all costs, and now we see it's flipped reversed. Alice wants to stay there because she's scared of catching the illness, and Zoe wants to leave because she's seen all of the bad things and eating all these like limbs and ears and stuff. She doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. This is something I said in the last video. I think we're going to see Zoe become more of a protagonist in this season for the rest of it anyway. Now here we get my first recognisable movie reference here, is where Alice is in the room where Joseph saved her in the last episode, and we see something in the wall moving, and we see a hand come through the wall, like not actually through the wall but against the material, and it obviously just reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street in the beginning scenes where Freddy's coming through the wall, and even the head comes towards through the wall and you see the head shape, reminding me just of that scene. But it turned out to be Izzy. Izzy's been there and hiding in the wall, so we don't know how she escaped from the monster in the first place, but we know she's running around in the walls, and without her the monster can't get his end of the deal. One of the grossest scenes is where Zoe goes out of the house and into like the fields again from the last episode, and she finds all the hand crops, and they're just actually moving this time. They're all just in the ground rolling around and moving, and it looks so gross. But then you come to realise later in the episode that the meat monster hands look very similar, so we're assuming he's like one of the oldest of the grown people, or it's just like that's the experiment that actually worked. So it seems the meat monster is actually more of a servant. Originally I thought he was going to be the deity, the monster, the god, but actually we find out that he's not at all, and we do get to vaguely see what the entity is by the end of this episode. I like the way that Zoe played the gardener, the one who likes riddles. She wanted to find out what's behind the red door, and the way she did it is by sort of tricking him into a riddle about who can actually go past the door, and he answered it because he wanted to be smart and answer the riddle, obviously. So she find out that A child is the only one who can go behind the door, which adds to the theory of this sacrifice. So then shit goes down from this point onwards. I felt really bad for Luke in this episode. Like I said in the last video, that I felt really sorry for him when he was like dying out there on his own, but now he's alive, and now he has time to think about what his dad has actually done to him. His dad tried to kill him, and it was a really sad scene when he realised just like what had actually happened to him and how betrayed he was. And the guy who plays Luke has been a pretty solid actor in this, I think. Because originally in the first episode he was a bit of a dick, but now he's really grown on me. And where the hell is the mutton chop guy? I thought he would have been first on the chopping block. We see a three-way chess game between Joseph, Smartmouth and the meat monster. Not sure how the meat monster can actually see the pieces on the board. He doesn't seem to have eyes, he only seems to have like tendrils like a slug, but this was just a weird scene, especially seeing Joseph and Smartmouth teaming up on him and like laughing. It was just so bizarre. We get to see just how far Alice has gone down this rabbit hole with the family. She seems to be entranced by it, because she actually, after she sees Izzy, she actually gives Izzy up to the family. For some reason she tells them where they are. Obviously she knows something bad might happen, but she does it anyway. So in the cellar with Luke and Louise, the brother and the two sniffer dog things actually track them down and get to the house, and just as they're about to break into the basement and get them, Luke's dad actually shows up and kills all of them. So he's trying to redeem himself slightly, but he kind of makes a bad excuse for it, how he's just choosing his priorities, and that really pisses Luke off because Luke shoots him. And I can't say it's unjustified. If your dad tried to slit your throat, you probably have reason to kill him, so yeah, I'm glad he went ahead with it. Before he actually shot him, they were just talking about what's happening, and I was just like, their relationship is so fucked if both of them survive. There's no way they can ever be anything at all, because he tried to kill his own son. That just doesn't happen. Arguably the best scene came up next in it, which was the whole ritual like baptism scene, and just the music in this, the choir music. I think it's Philip Glass. I heard the music, and as soon as I heard it, I recognised it from somewhere. Originally I thought it was from the Interstellar soundtrack, but it's actually the soundtrack from Watchmen, when we get to see the origin of Mr. Manhattan, and I love that song in that, and it was even as good or better in this scene where Joseph is baptising Alice and getting the centipede out of her mouth. In this scene, Joseph is dressed up sort of like a priest, but he has all these weird things on him. He kind of looks like a Dracula or something, which reminded me of him in his role in the remake of Salem's Lot in 2004, which he played the Barlow the vampire. So that gave me like a nostalgia to that, even though I've not ever actually seen that whole movie. It just reminded me of the Dracula theme. One of the most grotesque scenes in this whole episode is we revert back to the basement, and Luke's dad is doing all the dirty work this time around. He's actually having to cut up the bodies, and we get a really close-up shot of Luke's dad with these rubber gloves on, and he's cutting into one of the bodies. He's cutting the head off, and the way it's cut, it's so close, it just looks like he's chopping into a fish, and it was so gross, but it was really cool at the same time. So we finally get to see a little glimpse of what's behind the door and who the actual person in charge here is when Zoe checks out behind the door, and we see it kind of looks like some cult masked, I don't even know, it kind of looks human in a way, but it has like a bone skull mask and antlers and stuff, and then I'm not sure if it's the same creature, but we see another one which looks like the Wendigo from the Hannibal TV series, which has these giant antlers coming out of his head. So hopefully we get to see a full look at the monster in the next episode. So as the episode is coming to a close, Zoe has seen enough of this place. She lets Izzy free, and she decides to leave herself after seeing what's happening in there, and either she's gone to get help or she is just done with her sister because her sister's too far gone. I think it's probably the former. She's probably going to get help, which I can see them teaming up with Louise and Luke in the next episode. So the family is sat around a table and they're eating, and then we talk about the girl, and we realise that Izzy is gone, and then Joseph's face starts to go all skeletal again, which kind of confirms that they're only there to submit to this monster's needs, which is the sacrifice of children. She's not there, the monster's going to be pissed, so Joseph goes to basically try and apologise or extend his deal into the Red Door room. This is the first time we get to see Joseph being not in charge here. He seems pretty scared at this point, which I liked. There's always a bigger fish, right? So one of the small children things follow Joseph in there, and I guess he makes for an appropriate replacement for Izzy, because this monster, you can't see it, you can just see the background, and it's shot really nice in here. It looks really cool. You can't see in the background, but you can hear this monster like making very angry noises, and Joseph's apologising, and he just grabs the dwarf thing from across the room, slides him into the darkness, and you just hear him munching on him and the kid screaming. So I really can't wait to see what this thing actually is. By the sounds of it, it sounds huge. So those are my quick thoughts on this episode. I really enjoyed this episode. I do think this has been the best one so far, especially as far as just the shots and the cinematography and like just the gore and the psychological, everything gory and horrible was in this episode, and I loved it. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and I can't wait to watch the finale next week. So I'm going to try and get that one as fast as possible so you guys can see it. Let me know your thoughts on the episode down below. Let me know your theories about what you think is going to happen in the finale. Let me know what you think the monster's going to be. Is it going to be the thing we've already seen, or are we going to see something completely different? Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the finale next week.